The skies above Europe during World War II were a tempestuous ballet of fire and steel. The air was filled with the roar of engines and the thunder of anti-aircraft guns, creating a symphony of destruction that echoed across the continent. Fighter planes engaged in deadly dogfights, their machine guns spitting streams of bullets. These aerial duels were a test of both pilot skill and the capabilities of their aircraft, with each maneuver potentially being the difference between life and death. Bombers, heavy with their deadly payloads, lumbered towards their targets, braving flak and enemy fighters. These missions required precise coordination and nerves of steel, as the crews faced the constant threat of being shot down or blown apart. The air war was a new kind of conflict, one that brought the horrors of war to unprecedented heights. The skies became a battleground where technology and human courage were pushed to their limits. It was a brutal arena where survival was often a matter of luck and skill. Pilots had to make split-second decisions, knowing that any mistake could be their last. The Battle of Britain, the bombing of Dresden, the strategic raids on German industrial centers. These operations became grim milestones in the history of the war. Each mission was meticulously planned, with the aim of crippling the enemy's ability to wage war. Behind the controls of these aircraft were young men, often barely out of their teens, thrust into a world of unimaginable violence and destruction. They were trained to fly and fight, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of combat. They were tasked with carrying out missions that would forever alter the course of history. Each sortie was a step into the unknown, with the outcome uncertain and the stakes incredibly high. Their courage and sacrifice would become legendary. These young aviators earned their place in history through their bravery and determination, often at great personal cost. These young aviators faced not only the tangible enemy in the skies, but also an insidious foe that gnawed at their minds. Psychological trauma, the constant threat of death, the harrowing missions, the loss of comrades. All these factors took a heavy toll on their mental well-being. The stress and fear were relentless, leaving many pilots struggling to cope with the emotional aftermath. The mental and emotional strain of aerial combat left many deeply scarred, haunted by the memories of what they had witnessed and endured. The psychological wounds were often as debilitating as the physical injuries, affecting their lives long after the war ended. The air war was more than just a physical battle, it was a battle for the minds of the men who fought it. The letters they wrote home often hinted at the inner turmoil they faced, a silent testament to the unseen scars of war. The psychological impact of this new kind of warfare would have lasting consequences, not only for the pilots themselves, but also for their families and societies, long after the guns fell silent. The echoes of their experiences would resonate through generations. The scars of war, both visible and invisible, would continue to shape the lives of those who experienced its horrors firsthand. Their stories serve as a poignant reminder of the true cost of conflict, a legacy of bravery and sacrifice that must never be forgotten. The life of a World War II pilot was one of constant stress, filled with the ever-present threat of death and destruction, and danger. The average life expectancy for a bomber crewman over Germany was tragically short, often measured in mere weeks or even days. Those who survived their missions often returned home bearing invisible wounds that ran deeper than any physical injury. The camaraderie among the crew was strong, but the loss of friends was a heavy burden to bear. The psychological toll of aerial combat was immense. Pilots grappled with survivor's guilt, haunted by the faces of comrades who didn't make it back. The memories of those harrowing missions stayed with them long after the war ended. The sheer terror of being hunted in the sky, the constant fear of flak bursts and enemy fighters, left many emotionally drained and prone to nightmares and flashbacks. The sound of anti-aircraft fire and the sight of enemy planes were etched into their minds. The pressure of carrying out their missions, knowing that their actions could have devastating consequences, weighed heavily on their minds. Each mission was a test of their resolve and courage. Many pilots turned to cigarettes, alcohol, or sleeping pills to numb the pain and escape the memories that haunted them. These coping mechanisms were a temporary relief from the relentless stress and fear. The psychological impact of war didn't end when the fighting stopped. The echoes of battle followed them into their civilian lives, affecting their relationships and daily routines. Many veterans returned home to face a society that couldn't comprehend the horrors they had witnessed. The disconnect between their experiences and the civilian world was profound. They struggled to readjust to civilian life, haunted by their wartime experiences. The transition from soldier to civilian was fraught with challenges and emotional turmoil. The trauma they carried manifested in a variety of ways, from insomnia and anxiety to depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. These invisible scars were a constant reminder of their time in combat. The silent suffering of these veterans was a testament to the hidden costs of war. Support groups and therapy became lifelines for many, offering a space to share their stories and begin the healing process. Their stories serve as a reminder that the wounds of war run deep, and that healing takes time, understanding, and compassion. The support of family and friends was crucial in their journey towards recovery. The legacy of their experiences would continue to resonate for generations to come, highlighting the importance of addressing the mental health needs of those who served in uniform. Memorials and commemorations serve as a tribute to their sacrifices and a reminder of the enduring impact of war. In the crucible of war, amidst the chaos and carnage, a dark and controversial phenomenon emerged: pilots' revenge. This was not just a fleeting moment of anger, but a deeply ingrained response to the horrors witnessed daily by those in the skies. This term, whispered among aircrews and debated by historians, refers to instances where pilots, driven by grief, rage, and a thirst for vengeance, went beyond the conventional rules of engagement. These actions were often shrouded in secrecy, known only to those who participated and their closest comrades. These were not acts of sanctioned warfare, but rather deeply personal acts of retribution, fueled by the raw emotions of men pushed to their limits. The lines between duty and personal vendetta blurred, creating a moral gray area that was difficult to navigate. Some pilots, having witnessed the death of comrades or the destruction of their own aircraft, felt compelled to seek justice for the fallen. The loss of a fellow airman was not just a professional setback, but a deeply personal blow, often leading to a burning desire for retribution. They might target enemy airfields or supply lines, aiming to inflict maximum damage and disrupt enemy operations. These missions, while appearing strategic, were often driven by a personal vendetta, a need to make the enemy feel the same pain they had endured. Others, consumed by a desire for personal vengeance, might target specific individuals or groups they deemed responsible for atrocities or personal losses. This could include enemy aces known for their lethal efficiency or ground units infamous for their brutality. The motivations behind pilots' revenge were complex and multifaceted. It was not merely about anger or grief, it was also about a sense of justice, a need to balance the scales in a world turned upside down by war. The dehumanizing nature of war, the constant threat of death, and the breakdown of traditional moral boundaries created an environment where revenge could take root and flourish. The relentless pressure and the ever-present specter of death pushed many to the brink, where the desire for revenge became a coping mechanism. Pilots, already under immense pressure, grappled with feelings of anger, grief, and helplessness. The skies, once a place of freedom and adventure, had become a battleground where survival was uncertain, and every mission could be their last. For some, seeking revenge offered a sense of control in a world spiraling into chaos. It was a way to reclaim a sense of agency, to feel that they were not merely pawns in a larger game, but active participants shaping their own destinies. It's important to note that pilots' revenge was not condoned by military authorities. Officially, such actions were against the rules of engagement and the principles of military conduct. In fact, such actions were often met with disapproval and, in some cases, disciplinary action. Commanders understood the emotional toll of war, but had to maintain discipline and order within the ranks. However, the clandestine nature of these acts, coupled with the chaos of war, made it difficult to prove or punish. Many acts of pilots' revenge went unreported, known only to those who carried them out and their immediate comrades. The phenomenon of pilots' revenge remains a controversial and complex aspect of World War II history, one that raises difficult questions about the nature of war, the limits of human endurance, and the seductive allure of revenge. It challenges our understanding of heroism and morality in the face of unimaginable adversity.